So for the most part, all of the weapons inside of Destiny, they kind of just roll with the same perks, same traits, they're confined to their archetypes, and then that's it. But there's also a number of other weapons that have traits unique only to them. One of those weapons today happens to be Doomsday here. Now Doomsday is an adaptive grenade launcher, meaning it shoots at 120 rounds per minute, and it only drops from the lightness of Oryx. Now what makes Doomsday special? Well, number one, it rolls with spike grenades, which is a common perk found on grenade launchers, which increases the damage of your grenades when making direct impact. But number two, the trait Full Court also rolls in the final column here on Doomsday, which actually increases detonation damage as the projectile travels further before exploding. Now, that detonation damage will increase the further you get from your target, which at some point becomes somewhat of a juggling act, as like most things, the further you get from your enemies, especially bosses that like to bob and weave on you, the harder it is to hit them. And considering that this is a projectile weapon, things of course get even more difficult for us to land consistent amounts of damage at great ranges. Now, is this trait something that allows Doomsday here to even be in the conversation when talking about top tier DPS weapons, specifically Swarm of the Raven? Now, Swarm is nasty, and from what DMG and other people at Bungie have stated, grenade launchers will not be directly nerfed next season. What it sounds like is things like Lunafaction, Rally Barricades are going to be nerfed in terms of auto reload, but they will still increase reload speed, which is kind of funny because that actually makes us look at the reload speed of our weapons now. And of course, applying things like enhanced reload. We're not going to get into it today. Jesus, we can really get off beat here. The main thing is Doomsday even worth using? Well, first up, we've got some damage values because the power of math helps us figure this out. First up, Swarm. This was actually taken from Guildheart's account today. Shout out to him for having both a very nicely rolled Swarm and a decently rolled Doomsday, but his Swarm was hitting 3,578 on detonation damage. Now that big number, that's the detonation damage. The small number is actually the impact damage, which is 1,978 for a total of 5,556. Now Swarm without spike grenades, just for some point of reference here, actually increases our total damage by 13.5% and our impact damage by a total of 50%, which is pretty substantial, which is why we place so much value in something like spike nades. Now it has a DPS value here, and again, we do not have like a major spec on this grenade launcher, so we're looking at a DPS value of 13,890. Not bad. Pretty nice. Now, onward to Doomsday. Doomsday, pretty much at like 10 meters. It's hitting 3,899 plus 1,584 for a total of 5,483 damage. This brings us a DPS value of 10,966. Now, as we get further and further from our enemy, or in this case, Greg here, this increases our total damage. Now notice the detonation damage is what's increasing, and long story short, the furthest I can get from him inside of this lost sector only yielded us a 16.4% increase here in damage. Now that's not bad. We've got 12,768 damage per second, which is still more than 1,000 DPS shy of something like Swarm. And again, both of our grenade launchers here have spike grenades, so they're both being able to dip into that increase there in impact damage. I guess the question that comes up, at what range does something like Doomsday with full court and spike grenades surpass that of Swarm and spike grenades? Well, shout out to Mr. Magic Man over on Reddit. He actually found the range at which something like full court caps out there with Doomsday, and he said at 50 meters the weapon caps out at 25% extra damage, which at the end of the day, a 25% buff is nothing to bat an eye at. But the man has to be 50 meters away, and that's a pretty good range, especially for an adaptive grenade launcher that has already by default very low velocity, resulting even more time there that it takes for your grenade and projectile to reach its target, which again, just more time for the enemy to just juke your shots. So is something like Doomsday even in the conversation? I would say kinda, but at the end of the day, Swarm does everything that Doomsday does and better. It does more damage, it shoots faster, it has faster velocity. Both of these weapons hold 5, so it's not like the adaptive grenade launcher here has a substantially larger magazine. So even in the next sandbox, once reloading and stuff is affected, it's looking to be that aggressive grenade launcher, specifically something like Swarm, will still be the more optimal choice amongst all of our grenade launchers. But that's not to say that something like full court isn't an extremely valuable trait to have on a grenade launcher. And after testing these numbers, despite even the 25% buff that you would get here with Doomsday if you were standing at 50 meters, still not being enough damage per second to surpass something like Swarm. Next season, it might be likely we will come across an aggressive grenade launcher like Swarm that can roll with both spike grenades and full court, which will make the ultimate grenade launcher. Now, that is, of course, if nothing has changed to grenade launchers, but like Bungie and DMG have already stated, we're supposedly not getting any sandbox changes to them. So if damage across the board remains the same, again, aggressive's still going to be the way to go, but if we come across an aggressive frame grenade launcher that can roll with both full court and spike grenades, oh boy, it will most definitely be, yeah, nasty. Nasty! So guys, that is our review for Doomsday. Again, if you happen to come across a well-rolled Doomsday with full court, field prep, spike grenades, something else that's bringing down that blast radius in terms of barrel perks, hey, just keep it. Just in case, like Bungie sneaks in a switcheroo here for our grenade launchers. I highly doubt they're gonna do it, but they may. With that being said, we have a top 10 weapons list coming this week. We do it for pretty much all of our major expansions. I'm gonna be working on it all evening. I'll probably have it out tomorrow, guys. We'll just be going over all of the weapons to be looking for before Shadowkeep launches. And this is based on the sandbox that will be live starting next season, as we've got some rumors and other hints there on how the meta will be shifting. So be looking out for that. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching. And as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.